when the Palisades fire hit, we had a guy, Vincent, what was the guy telling you? We had a guy that was just like, he was willing to pay anything for us to run. What do you say? He was Mr. Blank Check. Okay. That's what he said to Vincent. Yes, Diane, he said, hey man, if you get to my house, 'cause Malibu PCH is still on fire at this point, and they have the blockades there, and we're able to get through to spray fire retardant. He's telling Vincent, I have a blank check, and I'm thinking, I don't even know what that means. Okay, like what?
Right.
So you either pay now or you pay later. That's the crazy thing. This guy was pay. I think he wanted a private firefighting team sitting there, like, and he was willing to
Yeah.
pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to make that happen. And I totally get it. When the reality is, like, we hope that we're not ever in this position, but you either invest now or you're going to be, not forced, but you're going to likely have to pay a lot more later.
Welcome to the All Things Wildfire podcast, where we delve into the latest trends and hot topics in protecting properties against wildfire. So sit back, relax, and join us as we arm you against disaster.
Welcome back to another podcast with All Things Wildfire. An awesome returning guest, Diane Delaney, who's the Executive Director of Private Risk Management Association, also known as PRMA. You know what, Diane, I love speaking with you because our listeners get so much value when they hear some of these stories and these tactics and these things that brokers and agents are doing out in the world now to help reduce the not only I should say reduce cost, but make the property more attractive to be insurable, because that seems to be one of the biggest points of contention in the Palisades, from the, Altadena, the Eden Fire, all of these areas. The things are very, they're still fresh, right? It's like
They are.
a wound that hasn't healed, and like there's a lot of still issues going on with insurance. So thank you for joining us again.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome. And here we are in December, and we're nearing the 1 year anniversary mark of the Palisades fire. And man, um, we were talking earlier, it's been a year already. Like, holy moly, what just happened to our year?
It
Um,
has.
but Diane, I'd like to just give it over to you. Let us know what you've been finding out, what's taking place here in the past year in your world.
Absolutely. So a lot has happened. I think we can all agree. And I think the way the year started, unfortunately, we're ending on a higher note, fortunately, and kind of the outlook of 2026. But I think, a lot's come out of what we've learned this year. And one of them being, it was really important for the association to provide more research in front of the membership. And we did a survey countrywide with over 250 high net worth individuals, where over 30% of them had to be from catastrophe prone states. And we asked them a number of questions to really uncover what their concerns were and what was their understanding of resiliency and how concerned were they about catastrophes or what were happening in the macroeconomics of the world.
That's great.
And there was a lot of findings from that study. Probably the biggest one that stood out to us is over 95% of the respondents, so might as well just say all of them, said that they
Yeah.
were fully confident in their insurance program.
Really?
Yes. Shocking. But
Okay.
when questions were asked further down, what the results also uncovered was that a little under 70% of them had also said they had serious concerns about exclusions at time of claim.
Ooh.
And that's a huge disconnect, right?
Big time.
Because I think up until more recent years, when we've seen what's been happening with catastrophes around the globe, insurance was insurance to people. And especially in the sector we're in of high net worth, there are some that will watch commercials on TV and feel you can name your own price, and insurance is insurance. But insurance is not the same for everyone. And just because you have a homeowner's policy in place does not mean your lifestyle is fully covered. And I think when you see what's happened in the Palisades, and let's face it, the news has not ever reporting on the positives, it's the negatives. And I think what people and clients were faced with is, individuals saying, well, my policy is not paying out. I mean, look at after a storm and a major flooding event, and people realize, well, I don't have flood insurance coverage. I thought I had home
Right.
coverage. And I
Right.
think that's where we're getting this concern, which does mean for our industry, OP, is there's a lot from our insurance broker standpoint, a lot of opportunity to be more consultative with our clients, and they're looking for more understanding. And it's easier for me to sit in this chair and say, oh, well, talk to them about being more resilient, when we know a lot of the times they're pushing back. But I think, we can unpack a lot here in terms of what does this mean for how we're having conversations with clients.
Such a good point. I think that for a long time, and this is, I don't mean any disrespect to my lovely brokers and agents. I love you guys. But I think the industry has changed where, let's face it, back in the day, homeowners used to see insurance as a commodity. Like, I got to get insurance. And, if you're, as a broker, you're likable. I like you. Let's just go ahead and do the deal. Cool. Awesome. Now, like, you best become and brush up on your expertise,
Yes.
because the broker, the insurance carriers, the underwriters are like, hey, I'm going to give you X, but I'm not going to give you, these other things. And now you have to like lean in to this discomfort and deliver information to the homeowner. And I just feel like, man, more than ever, the broker needs to become like a confidant to the homeowner, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a conversation that happens once a year. It is like a quarterly conversation. Like, hey, Larry, how we doing? I want to chat with you about X. Like, let's, what's happening in your life? Because you're so right. The insurance company, just because they cover your property or your home, doesn't cover your lifestyle. Like, every homeowner's lifestyle is so uniquely different. And unless we as homeowners communicate that to the broker, we could have some open gaps,
Yes.
as to risk to us. And I think, too often, like, I'll just say, oh, this is this is my home, blah, 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 give me the bill and get out of here. When the reality is I should really divulge, like, by the way, my daughter now lives with me and she's got this happening. She's got a child here. And by the way, we just made this significant investment in the backyard. And I got these things here that maybe I wouldn't mention normally, but if I don't and it's claim time, there's a problem. So I really do think that the broker relationship and the homeowner relationship really needs to be stickier. Any thoughts on that?
Yes. And I don't envy the broker and the position that they're in this type of market where we expect a lot. Like, go deliver this rate increase and we're not renewing those clients over there. Oh, and by the way, be risk managers and make sure they know how to retrofit their home for every catastrophe that's being thrown at them. And maybe they'll get some coverage. And they will try to have conversations with their clients about things like flood or other catastrophes that can happen. And it's not really till time of claim where a client could say, well, you never told me. And they did. They just, they're not really thinking about the worst case scenario at that time. But with all of that being said, I do believe that this is the time for our industry to shine. And it's those brokers that have more of that consultative mindset that are doing so well, where clients are turning to them and saying, what should I do? What are your thoughts here? And what I would say for our industry in general is, because there's so much you have to know have this conversation, but also make sure they know how to prepare their home for a wildfire, is you can't be an expert in all of it, but you have to know where to go for them.
Yeah.
Lean a lot on organizations like the PRMA, where we have material that you can review before speaking with a client. Go to your insurance companies. I mean, they do a phenomenal job at having these one-pagers or pieces that will help you guide the client. And I think it's important that we, with so much on our plate coming at us every single day, as brokers, we could think about the minimums. What are the minimums, at least, that I could be talking to my clients about that they should be putting in place? Like a leak detection device. We can't have a water claim inside a home right now. That's just not, when something like that could have been completely preventable.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really where, for brokers, hopefully it's having that side of I can't know it all, but I have to know where I could go to get this.
Boom. I love that. And um, couple things I'll say. So there's a book. It's called Who Not How, and the power in, as a broker, not having to learn how to do all these things, but connecting to the right who already knows how to do these things, and they love it and they thrive, and you can get so much value from the who's already an expert. And I just think back to the educational courses that you have on PRMA, and I'm plugging PRMA right now because I see value already in kind of what you're talking about. I've seen the consultative mindset training that I've been through already, that you've given and other experts have given about, this is how we can change our landscape by changing the conversations we're having with our
Right.
clients. And I'm thinking, this is very unique. This is very niche for the broker insurance industry. And I think it's very valuable because in this changing environment, we've got to continue to sharpen our tools.
Yes.
Otherwise, the homeowner's going to say, I'm out, I'm going to go somewhere else because I'm frustrated that I'm not getting the right answers, or I'm not, the communication is not there. So to your point earlier, you're right. The broker does have a lot more on them now and a
Yes.
lot more pressure. But I love some of the courses that you guys have put together to really fast forward and shortcut that learning process for the brokers.
Yeah, I think, OP, and what you're getting at there too is it's our job to show value. Clients are generally willing to exchange money for something of equal or greater value. And if that's the case, we have to show it. However, it's very hard to show value on a product you hope you never have to use, like your life insurance. And because of this, it's it's getting in that mindset of, I'm not going to try and spend the client's money. A lot of the times we'll see what the new price is for their proposal that year. We could say, well, they're never going to go for that. Are they never going to go for it because it's too expensive? Or are they just not seeing the value? And when they're not seeing the value, it's because we didn't do our job to show them that. Now, granted, some clients are tough. They don't want to share a lot of information, so it's hard to show the value. But in a lot of other cases, OP, and into the classes you're talking about, what we get into is really redesigning your questions to find out, if your home burns down to the ground, what would you like to happen? Where would you go? And that's how you can set the stage. Get it from them. Let them tell you, I don't want to rebuild. The kids grew up, they moved out. I want to go move to Florida. Great. With the current company they're with, that's not an option. And I think
Boom.
getting those words are critical.
That is so. I mean, look. Obviously, you've been through that already. You've seen and heard these things happen. As a disaster restoration restorer, as a wildfire prevention contractor, I heard the exact same things. There was one client that we had in in Palisades. We finished up, and his sister and his parents both lost their home, and his parents are in their late 70s, and it was really clear. He says, AOP, they're like, what are we going to do? Build a house, right? It's going to
Right.
take us 3 to 5 years. Like, I don't have much life left, man. I want to go do and enjoy. I don't want to build. And so it's really interesting how you mentioned that, because at different phases of our lives,
Correct.
things change. And so
Yes.
this is where the tools that we're buying as insurance really could serve us, or they could not serve what we think is going to happen when we have the claim, if we don't communicate the phase of life that we're in, right? um
Exactly.
that's huge. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I was just reading on, especially us at the time that we're recording this, we're coming up on 2026. And, I'm just trying to get ahead of, like, what is the industry saying? What are we looking at for the future? And I read in one of the reports, which I thought was so interesting, but so spot on. And, we have to shift the customer's mindset to view insurance as the catastrophic coverage, not just home maintenance. So 12 shingles fly off your home, you're not going to go and submit the
No.
claim for a new roof. You're going
Right.
to use it in that exact case that you said. And I think that's also that's important, just as important as we're talking about resiliency with the clients and being more proactive than reactive. It's also understanding when they're going to use their coverage. Like, this is meant to be here for the worst case scenario,
Right.
not because 12 shingles came off your roof.
Yes, agreed. And so interesting. Going back to the water shut-off devices, that's huge. That's part of what we've been doing this whole last year, is just like one after another. And I think it's great that the carriers are really asking homeowners to do it. And I know there are some carriers that are actually contributing to putting those in some cases. Um, and what a I mean, it's a smart thing to do as a homeowner, because we had one client who had a leak, and then it was a $150,000 remodel, water damage, and then we installed the device after, and then about 6 months later, the device goes off, right? We get an alert. She gets an alert. She's calling. It's 10 o'clock at night. And you could imagine the scar tissue on that. Like, she's going, oh my God, it's happening again. Are you
Yes.
kidding? They don't want it to happen again, man. They
No.
disrupted their so much. And so it was able to be controlled into one small area. It was a beautiful thing. And I'm like, man, if homeowners knew how much time, energy, and effort and brain space and ability they would save by not going through that claim,
Yes.
it'd be
Oh, and Obi, I've been there. I mean, February of 2020, actually prior that, at my other home before I moved to this one, brand new home, and every once in a while we would notice water dripping from hi-hats of your outlets, which you should never see. And we
hmm
found out that 12 homes in the community were fitted with defective PEX fittings, which meant that of those, probably over 40 of them throughout the house that you obviously could not see behind the wall, they were corroding and we were ticking time bomb. Being in the industry, obviously worked with water security solutions at that time, and we were fitted with one of the leak detection systems, and we got used to controlling it. I mean, it was 23 minute of water flow in our house before it would shut. So we had to know on our phone to extend it if we were filling up the pool or multiple people were staying over the weekend and multiple showers would be running. But you just got used to it. You leave the home and you put it in away mode. And there was one evening, February 2020, before the world shut down, I had went to bed. And when I woke up in the morning, I went into the bathroom and I turned on the faucet and there was no water coming out. So I ran to my phone and my phone had showed that FlowLogic had shut the system off at 3:32 in the morning after 23 minutes of water flow. And I ran downstairs. It's now 6 a.m. and there's water still coming. And I think what people have to understand is, even though these systems shut the water is still going to drain through the pipes.
right.
But if I didn't have that system, that water would have been flowing full force. Now, that claim was close to $100,000. It busted over an office with computer equipment. It buckled cherrywood floors, and the water seeped into my basement and caused mold.
Mm.
Oh, my insurance company's not so worried about it now. But I say all that, and thank God we had the system, because March 2020 then came, and here I would have been with 2 toddlers, a dog, and where were we going to go when the world is shut down? And I think that's what we have. We have to, and I'll say this in the PG version because we're on our recording, but I always tell my classes when we teach them, it is your job to scare the blank out of your clients in the nicest possible way. You have to create these scenarios based on these stories and have them envision, if that happened to you, what would you like to happen? And I think that's how we I don't even want to say sell these tools. It's how we advise on these tools, because they're critical.
Mm. And look, I think we all need to have some of these stories in our back pocket to share, because this is impactful, and we could all put ourselves in the position of like, oh shoot, at any given time I'm going through this difficulty or this other thing in my life. I can't afford something to disrupt
Right.
already what I'm going through. Like, you could just imagine. And just like some of the people in these wildfire events, like what's taking place, like we don't know what they were already going through, then you got
Correct.
this. Oh, um, But I do want to touch on number one, for those of you that don't know, like Diane has a potty mouth. Like she's a New Jersey chick. Like she can totally like hip with the dudes, right? So like that's the cool thing. Like when you said
Yep.
I want to keep it PG, I'm like, just let it rip, girl. Just like
Yep.
people just need to hear it. Anyway, so thank you for also knowing how to be professional. I need to
Anything for you, okay?
learn more of that myself. But I tell you what, I think uh, I I don't want to put it this way, but I will just to launch this conversation. I think people are going to pay when when they have to make these investments. Okay, when the broker says, "Look, I need you to be more resilient. I need you to add a water shut off device. I need you to add maybe a gas shut off device, and I need you to do wildfire prevention, just so I can go to market and just have a better chance to give you insurance." Some of the homeowners that we've dealt with have said, wow, that's a big investment. I don't know that I want to make that. Okay.
Mhm.
And so whatever dollar, let's just call it $25,000 for argument's sake. When the Palisades fire hit, we had a guy, Vincent, what was the guy telling you? We had a guy that was just like, he was willing to pay anything for us to run. What do you say? He was Mr. Blank Check. Okay. That's what he said to Vincent. Yes. Diane, he said, hey, man, if you get to my house, 'cause Malibu PCH is still on fire at this point, and they have the blockades there, and we're able to get through to spray fire retardant. He's telling Vincent, I have a blank check. And I'm thinking, I don't even know what that means. Okay. Like what?
Right.
So you either pay now or you pay later. That's the crazy thing. This guy was pay. I think he wanted a private firefighting team sitting there, like, and he was willing to
Yeah.
pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to make that happen. And I totally get it. When the reality is, like, we hope that we're not ever in this position, but you either invest now or you're going to be, you know, not forced, but you're going to likely have to pay a lot more later.
Yes. And I think that's what we have to drive is that sense of urgency of we hope it doesn't happen. And there will be a lot of clients in our space that will say, forget it, I'll just self-insure, which so
Ooh,
be it.
ooh.
If that's the risk you're willing to take on, that's on them. However, and you could probably speak to this better than I can because I was not out there during the Palisades, but I could imagine now when these fires pass, what it takes to get anyone in to clean up, to rebuild. Like, and that's where when you have insurance in place, especially with the carriers that we're working with, they're working with you and they're working for you as opposed to you trying to do it alone. And I think that's what people have to really weigh out. Look, there will be some people that will choose to take it on themselves and self-insure, and that's on them. But there are others, I think what they need to see is if you wanted to rebuild, what will it be like to rebuild when everyone else around you is trying to do that too?
Yes, agreed. And then there was so much value um that I was seeing from the homeowners. Like I think what you said earlier was really kind of spot on your research, that 70% of the people are still very concerned about their coverage.
Works. Hmm.
And so when I was out there, we're talking to people, they don't know what's going on. They're on the phone with their broker, we're on speaker, and they're like, do I have coverage for this? How many months do I have that I can be out of my house? What about my garage that's detached? And what about, all of these other things? And so there's just all of these questions. And in some cases, it wasn't that good of news, but um, in other cases, the homeowner felt so much more secure in knowing that they had an expert on the other line,
Yes.
that it's like, and when they didn't have the answer, like, hey, don't worry about it, I'm going to get the answer, I'll have an answer for you tomorrow, or we'll get it, or yes, that's taken care of, I'm looking at your policy right now. There's so much sense of relief that I was able to see when they're communicating with their broker. I'm like, man, that is so cool, because there are other people across the street that either don't have anyone because they're
Right.
self-insured, or they have the fair plan because that was the only thing they could buy.
Right.
No one's answering the phone over there, by the way, early on for a month. It was incredible.
Right.
Incredible. So we saw a lot of really good things happening there in the relationships with the carrier, the broker, and the homeowner. It was really cool.
And that's where I wish, actually,
No,
not
there you go. Let it rip.
give you the
Just
time. Okay,
go.
let it go. Okay, so my maiden name is Blancpagne, which in Italian translates to good bread. And I used to say growing up, I'd love to open a news channel called Good News with the Good Breads. Because what you just said, OP, is what we saw on the news. If you turned on any of the national news stations, what was being reported were the people who were struggling, who didn't have insurance, they didn't know who to call, and that was the reality of what was happening. But
Yeah.
what you also didn't hear about were these positive stories. And I think we have to, as an industry, push that out there, because that's not what's going to be broadcasted nationally. And I think some clients go into our industry with a negative feeling towards it. They just want money, and it's not about that. And I think these stories have to be told regularly, because only we know them. You know them while
Agreed.
you're out there.
Agreed. So true. So true. Yeah, you know what? Never really thought about it that way, but you're right. Well, we know the media is just completely negative, and that's what sells, and people want to hear that. But what really sucks about that is like people's energy is filled with and riddled with anxiety and distrust, and they bring that to the table now to the new broker, right, or the
Right.
carrier. Like, what do you do for me? My neighbor got whatever. When the reality is, it's like, look, Larry, I could use your help, man. What do you suggest? Like, I'm all ears. Like, let's collaborate together, because I really do see insurance as a partnership. You know, I don't know if I shared this with you, Diane, or not, but um, when I started the company, Allied Restoration, it was my little brother and I, and his name is Victor. We started the company, and within about a year, I had been watching a lot of people that are uh in the wealth movement, and much smarter than I, and kind of understand insurance is something that the wealthy use as a vehicle. So we ended up getting life insurance on each other, and then we got key man insurance, right? So key man, which is if one of us dies, the
Yes.
company gets money. My little brother, a son of a gun, he ends up passing away 2 years into our business. And our entire family was distraught. Business
I
was
can
a
imagine.
mess. And if it weren't for the insurance company providing the
Mhm.
financial support to keep us on our feet, to really be able to gather ourselves up again, hire more people, reset our mindset, our thinking after the tragedy, and go again. If it weren't for the insurance company,
Yep.
we would not be existing. So to me, I tell people all the time, utilize insurance. It's a powerful vehicle that is going to protect in property. It's going to protect your lifestyle and be able to like insulate you from some of these things that are going to happen. Like we none of us are immune to this anymore. Like, it's going to happen.
Yes.
Something's going to take place that's going to impact, if not your home, your community, and you're going to be impacted by the effects of it. So I'm a
Yeah.
fan of insurance. I love it. So
Yeah. And if I ever open a news channel called Good News with the Good Breads, you can share that story on there, because it needs to be heard.
good news with the good breads. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Um, okay, so now, um, what? Thank you for sharing some of the data that you were able to capture from your survey. Um, what are you seeing, if anything, that the insurance, the end user, the homeowner, do they have any concerns or fears around what if the rates are going to continue to go up? Are they asking if the rates are going to come back down? Are they like what are your brokers hearing from the homeowners?
I think that response varies, and it's a really good question, because I think if you ask anyone if they're paying a lot for insurance, they'll say yes. But everyone will have a different response on whether or not they see the value in the coverage that they have. And no surprise, in the survey results that we did, if we extracted anyone from a catastrophe prone state, a lot of them are spending almost 50% more on their insurance coverage than they were years ago. However, what we didn't see, because we gave them the opportunity to give us open comments or field
Mhm.
boxes, they were not pushing down on the price. They were pushing down on the macroeconomics, on what was happening in our world in general was a bigger concern for them. And I think some of them are realizing the bigger picture. There is so much right now out of our control. Insurance pricing is out of our control. What's happening in our political environment, what's happening with regulation. But while I say in the insurance sector, so much is out of our control, to the conversation we were just having, there's a lot that's still within their control. And I think that's
Oh,
what we have to show them. It's,
so good.
yep.
So good. And you're right. I think there is science that backs up a lot of the prevention things that are taking place. A
Right.
lot of what we do to prevent a home from igniting from wildfire, or reducing the chances,
Yeah.
it's fact. It's out there, right? It's a matter of going into your specific property and identifying the building products, the proximity of vegetation, all of these little things that make it unique to the individual's property to say, okay, here's what needs to happen in order for the home to win or have a better chance. Because we saw the embers flying, and I know in California, northern and southern Cal, there are some massive wind events. I think Colorado, I don't know how many states, right? I'm gonna have to find out actually how many states have some significant wind events, because
Hmm.
that was a massive driver here. The
Yes.
embers were flying miles. So
Yeah.
any
And
any thoughts there?
yeah, I think, and that's the how we have kind of more well-rounded discussions of we're not just looking at one catastrophe. So we're not just talking about the wildfire itself, but really what could happen, like you said, with embers flying. Even if we look at things like I've mentioned flood before, a lot of people will say, I don't live in a flood zone, but
Yeah.
that doesn't matter. Look around us. There is construction everywhere. And usually when construction's happening in a neighborhood or a community, there's regrading that's happening with the lawns. And if regrading is not done properly, and I've seen it, you can cause water to flow right inside your home. And again, people don't realize you have home insurance, you don't have flood coverage. And if you don't have flood coverage, you can't put a policy in. And like you said, there's hail events that we've seen. There's convective storms happening. Even in New Jersey, we had that bad wildfire earlier this year. You know,
Right.
you so you don't know. But we can't, and I guess I'll use the R-rated version, but we can't scare the shit out of our client and have them prep for everything. Like, let's retrofit your home for the flood and the wildfire and all of this. And I think that's the balance we have to strike as an industry. And that's why it's a challenge. It's a topic we have to
Mhm.
talk about. But I think what we have to get better talking about together as an industry is like, how do we narrow down the topics we're talking about? Because so much is happening. We have to be realistic with our clients.
Boom. Wow. Okay, you're right. Right. Yeah, we can't say, hey, you got to buy all these things so we can put a bubble around your house, because that's
Right.
not realistic either. And you don't want to spend an absorbent amount of money to do some of these crazy things. But you're right about flood. It's basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's groundwater, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And so for the listeners that are not familiar with coverages, water damage coverage in your home, pipe breaks, you're likely going to have coverage. If you have water intrusion from the outside in, that's flood
Correct.
insurance. You don't have it. You don't have coverage. You're paying out of pocket. And I
Exactly.
think that's what Diane's talking about, is like, we have to be thinking about, like, okay, from where we live in our environment, what could potentially happen, even though we may not be on flood plains, right?
Right.
When you buy the home, it says, nope, you're not in the flood zone. Cool. I don't need flood insurance, right? That was the norm back
Right.
then. And the reality is, it probably doesn't cost that much more. I don't know. But if I'm able to look at the different options, I would look at it. Um, we just went through with our company the ability to renew our health insurance, right? And it
Yeah.
was really cool to see in the software, they made it real simple. Like, hey, man, deal. Here's the coverage that you're going to get. By the way, if you want, to be able to have insurance for dental and for, these other options, here you go. Click here, click here, click here. And then it gives you a total. And I think if the homeowners are able to see those options in a much easier way and have a consultative conversation around it, maybe it's a 15-minute Zoom call with Mrs. Smith and Mr. Smith and say, hey guys, here are your options. Let's take a look at this. Here's what it would mean. Any questions? Oh yeah, this is what this means. Great. And then they can sleep on it and make some decisions and say, hey, you know what? We're going to go with these 4 things. I think when it's all said and done, I think what you're saying and what you've been preaching for years is the consultative mindset really needs to be accepted by brokers so they can thrive, man, because it's going to be necessary. It is necessary already.
Yeah, and I think it's important that brokers, they have to view themselves, when we say you're a risk management advisor, you're an advisor, what does that really mean? And when we're playing in the high net worth space, if we think about the other advisors in an individual's life, think about the conversations they have. And I recently shared this story in a class that I taught where, if we take the insurance outside of it, I went through a divorce 2 years ago, and typically you go through a divorce and you start to find different advisors because now you split all that. And I was really nervous to find a new financial advisor because I am the type of person, I must have like 6 life insurance policies. Why? Because I'm terrible at saying no. And I just didn't want to have another discussion. Like, here's another life. Like, okay, I didn't want that.
Right.
And I was put in touch with this financial planner. And what I told the group of brokers is we had 3 separate phone calls. Each phone call ranged from 30 minutes to an hour before he ever mentioned a product to me. And I understand 30 minutes to an hour, 3 separate phone calls might not be realistic depending on the size of your high net worth homeowner client, but there was still a conversation. And the conversation him and I had was not about products he can offer me, but it was about, where do I see my life in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? What do I want to teach my daughters about financials? What keeps me up at night? What am I worried about? And what really sold me on him is when we met in person to go through his recommendations, what he did is he put in front of me a piece of paper. And at the top of that piece of paper were 5 bullets. And those 5 bullets were the concerns I said I had in priority order. The concerns were the kids' college. The other concerns were I had felt like I had 401ks and IRAs all over the place. I didn't know where stuff was. I wanted it condensed. Boom, boom, boom. And I listed it. And what he said to me after we went through them is, did I get these correct? Did I miss anything? Nope, Mike, you got those correct. And he said, great. Now let's talk about, we're going to handle these one by one. Let's start with the biggest priority. And it was so simple in people's terms. And I think taking a balance of what you just said, there has to be a conversation. But there's a lot of mass market, middle market insurance companies that are great for the mass market. It's transactional. You're in, you're out, you have coverage, you go. This space, high net worth, especially where the clients tend to have their homes, there has to be some sort of conversation like we said before. And if you even have just 3 points of what they were most concerned about protecting, when you're having that discussion with them, if they're seeing the side-by-side comparison of what they have, in that it's saying, what you're seeing here is because what you shared with us is you were concerned about XYZ at time of claim. And you had also mentioned, and having their words are so much more powerful than my recommendation.
So good, man. So good. I love that. And I hope brokers and salespeople take note of that, because when you're able to repeat back to the buyer what they said in their own words, it really it tells me you listen to me, you understand me, you get me. Yeah, let's now walk me through, man, because
Yes,
that's what I wanted.
exactly.
Yeah. We have a form that once a homeowner on the disaster restoration side, once they have a claim, we go out there and, you know, we sign an agreement, say we're going to, work with the insurance company to get pricing. By the way, Mrs. Smith, can we talk about what's important to you during this construction process? It's going to take, a couple of months to get through this. And we teach our guys and gals to listen. And so sometimes the homeowner's like, well, I don't know what's important. Just be on time. And so when we hear that, like the trigger for our people is like, okay, take them back to a time when they've ever had any construction done in their home, like anything, any remodel, even when they were a child. What didn't they like?
Yes.
And then they're like, you know what? I remember now, the guys were freaking messy. And we're
So
like,
true.
cool. Let's write that down. Right? So we repeat back to them what's important in pets. Like as soon as we see any pets around, like 100%, that's a big issue, and we need to protect them just as if they're children. But the pets are left at home oftentimes, right? So there has to be some management around that. But being able to recite back what's important to them is so key, and
Yes.
it really lets people know that they've been heard. So, um, awesome. Diane, is there anything else? Like, I feel like we can go on and talk about a bunch of stuff. I know that PRMA 2026, is there anything you want to add as far as like what you guys are doing? I know you guys are building, you guys are growing, you're adding more value to your curriculum. I love it, but I'll let you share what's coming in 26.
Yeah, we're excited. We're starting to grow our staff just because we've grown so much in the last couple of years. And in order for us to continue to bring value to the membership, we need more people and headcount. So we're really excited about what we're going into next year. One of the first projects we're really coming out of the gate with is our learning tracks, where, you know, and I'll even admit this too. You come to the PRMA webpage. I know everyone's busy with their day job and they're just looking for a webinar or a tool on fine arts, let's say. Great. But it's not that easy to find. So in these learning tracks, what's going to happen is the member will eventually be able to go to a page and click, I'm new to insurance and I'm new to high net worth. And there'll be a recommended number of courses. And then they could toggle between, I just want a white paper, I just want a job aid, I just want a podcast, whatever that might be. Or maybe they're not new to insurance, but they're new to high net worth. So they don't need everything. And then that'll narrow it down. So the plan is for people to come on and be able to say, this is the level I'm at. What do you have for me? And my hope too is when we're looking at bringing young talent into the industry, that we can partner with our carriers and our brokers and our service providers to say, you onboard them and get them up to speed on your company and your culture, but then you send them to PRMA and we'll give you everything else that they need so that they learn about the industry.
Boom. I love that. I love that. And so I think the more helpful the site is, obviously the more people will go to it, and because it can navigate. And before we finish up here, anything on AI that you guys are doing? I know AI is a big deal for almost every business, and just wanted to touch on if there was anything that's happening there for you guys.
Yeah, one of the tools we're exploring, we have not signed a contract with them as of yet, but we are doing a lot of research between my team, and now we're having some of the membership pilot this, where we'll go out and we'll teach a course on how to get the client to talk more, how to ask open-ended questions, how to listen. But I don't have time to coach everyone on how to do that. And what people need to do is they need to practice it, but we don't want them to practice it on the millionaire. And there's tools out there where you can practice with an AI persona, where we've trained the persona. Every time I ask you a yes, no question, only answer it yes, no, be tough. And also be more of a dominant trait or an influential trait.
Whoa,
Yeah.
yeah.
And each time you do it, and then it scores you. And you don't know how the person's going to respond, but it's been amazing because I feel like sometimes I'll travel the country and I'll go out and I'll meet with a group of brokers and they're motivated and they want to try the skills, but then they're going to go back to their desk and life is waiting for them. And what I'd love for them to be able to do is to sign into the PRMA tool, and now they're ready to practice with Carl. And Carl's going to talk, and I don't know what's going to come out of Carl's mouth. I know I trained Carl to answer closed-ended. So that is, and this tool is very new. We've been excited about it. What we have to do is we have to excite the membership about it. It's a relatively expensive tool, rightfully so, for what it's able to do. But those are things we're exploring, because how cool would that be if you are going out there and you have to have a tough discussion on a 30% rate increase, and you can go into the tool and say, I have to have this discussion, challenge me. And it does.
I love that. And it's so interesting because it's going to be your niche, right? Your insurance, and it's going to be wrapped around that. But what's so cool is that role playing is the fastest way, in my opinion, to overcome and get your reps in,
Yes.
right? And so we would role play, and you could just see the uncomfortableness in my staff when I'm like, here's the situation, here's what's going on, and you have 2 minutes, let's go. And they'd be like, oh, well, and they're embarrassed because they're talking to their,
Yes.
their coworker. But when you could role play and take the shame or the embarrassment away, because there's no visual person there, it's more natural. I feel
Yes.
like you stay in your natural state because you don't have the anxiety. And once you get the repetition in,
Yes.
then it's now in you, in your body. And now when you go to deliver it, there's a lot more comfort. So I love this tool. It sounds like it would be powerful. I think I want to ask you what tool is that, because we could probably use it in our business.
Yeah,
But to be able to role play in a safe place and make the mistakes and not have to suffer the denial of a contract or not being able to get the
yes,
client, right? Like, you can fail here, man. It's safe, and let's go and get the reps in. I love that.
exactly. Yeah, so
Wow.
we're excited about exploring things like this. I just think it's just a value add.
Awesome. Awesome. And I think it's PRMA is lucky to have someone like you and your team to be able to be thinking about these things, because, you know, these types of associations can become old and crusty and they'll just go
Yeah,
away and like whatever, it's just the same old thing. But to innovate and to really like understand, like, we've got to continue to add more value to our people so they can win. Like, that is awesome that you're in the forefront to making sure that you're delivering that for your people. So
exactly. Thank you.
I love that. I love that. All right, Diane. Well, listen, thank you again very much for your time and for sharing some of your stories and really the direction that where PRMA is going. And listeners, I hope you got a lot out of this. I would rewind if you want to learn some more things, and then reach out to Diane. Diane, where can they
Please do.
reach you at?
Yeah. So if you come to the privateriskmanagement.org webpage and you go to the About Us, you'll find my contact information there, my full team. You would explore more about the membership. We're always happy to do these mini open houses with you and talk about what comes along with the membership and what we're doing here.
Boom. Awesome. Diane, thank you so much.
Thanks, Sophie.
Take
Great
care.
to talk. Take care.
Bye-bye.
That's all for this episode of All Things Wildfire. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to our show and follow us on social media to stay up to date on all things wildfire. And as always, thanks for listening.